Jesus said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." Though there are parts of the Bible which are far more unpalatable, this one strikes a nerve with us, because it runs against everything we seem to know about Jesus. Jesus, the lover of our souls, the one of grace and healing, and yet here he is, calling a woman a dog. And not only that, but the woman approached Jesus for the simple reason that she is desperate to help her daughter who is possessed by a demon. She begs him to cast out the demon and says, he says, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." Either Jesus isn't who we think he is, or there's another side of Jesus we would rather not know about. But I think there's something more going on. Remember, all of these stories were set in a certain time with real people involved, real people and real geopolitics. The Bible was not written in a vacuum. So here's the situation. The story takes place in the city of Tyre, populated by Syro-Phoenicians. They are not Jews. Tyre is a port city. We know something about port cities. Port cities, like ours, have incredibly wealthy people who have made their money in trade. Plus, port cities, like ours, are full of people from every nation under the sun. It would not have been strange for a man like Jesus, a Jew from another country, to show up for a vacation. And really, that's what Jesus has done. He's come to Tyre to get a break from his ministry. Now, Jesus is from the region of Galilee. Galilee is adjacent to Tyre. And of course, Galilee is populated by Jews. Galilee is mostly agricultural. Think of the people Jesus goes around with: craftsmen, farmers, fishermen. These are not the wealthy merchants and ship owners in the city of Tyre. And that's the issue. Tyre is wealthy. Galilee is poor. And for centuries, the people of Tyre had been using Galilee as their breadbasket. The Syrophoenicians of Tyre have been buying up all of the grain from Galilee, meaning that the Jews of Galilee could hardly afford the food that they produced. It was Galilean farms and farmers, it was Jewish fishermen and boats that fed the people of Tyre, even as the Jews of Galilee went hungry. So now this sounds a little different. The Galilean Jew says to the wealthy Syrophoenician, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." You can hear Jesus' anger in that. Not at this woman per se, but at the economic oppression of his own people. Jesus has seen his own people go hungry on crumbs while the food they produce gets shipped off to these foreigners. Also, the gospel story says that this woman's daughter is on a bed, not a mat. Beds were signs of wealth in the ancient world. And when the Gospel of Mark means bed, it says bed. When Mark wants to use the word mat, like a poor person would use, it says mat. The fact that this woman's child, her child, is on a bed means that she is far wealthier than most any Jew from Galilee could ever imagine. And now this wealthy Syrophoenician woman comes begging to Jesus, a Jew from Galilee. Just imagine the generations of pathos and emotion when those two meet. Like Hutu and Tutsi, like Irish Catholic and Irish Protestant. Because of this history of oppression and resentment, we can imagine that both groups had long called each other dogs. I don't think this is based on gender as much as it is on an ancient grudge. And then the woman answers Jesus' riddle with a riddle of her own. Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. See, what she's doing is she's putting herself in the place of the Galilean Jews. She's begging like they have. She's acknowledging that the Jews of Galilee have been treated like dogs by people like her, the Syrophoenicians. The Jews of Galilee have been begging for crumbs, and the Syrophoenicians have been throwing crumbs their way. By begging Jesus, she is reversing the whole social dynamic. She gets it. She understands what it must be like for people like Jesus, long oppressed. So Jesus is feeling the pain of his own people. This woman is feeling the pain of her daughter. And in this incredibly human moment, they learn about each other's pain. The woman gets the pain that Jesus and his people are feeling. Jesus feels the pain of this desperate mother. And there's grace. The effect of all of this is that Jesus frees the woman's daughter, thank God, from the demon. And not only does Jesus heal the woman's daughter, he heals the wound of prejudice that stands between them. I'm telling you, this Bible stuff is dynamite. The fancy church word for this is reconciliation. Reconciliation is the spiritual capacity to feel someone else's suffering, to hear their pain, to walk in their desperation, to know their hunger, and then to do something about it. This is what Jesus embodies. Jesus hears the suffering, the pain of both his own people and of this woman. And to both groups, so opposed to each other, to Galileans and to Syrophoenicians, Jesus gives hope and healing. He brings them together. This gospel lesson, too, it shows us who we are. You know it as well as I do. We are at each other's throats like Galileans and Syrophoenicians. Some people get wealthier day by day. Some people get poorer day by day. And sometimes those people live just blocks apart. This makes us weaker, for the only thing that seems to be growing nowadays is resentment. And all the while, our children suffer for it, for they will inherit this divided world of ours. It's as if this passage is playing out right in front of us. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can take that empathetic step. We can listen to the cries, the anger, the hunger from people we don't like. And admit it. There are people in this world, maybe even in this room, that you do not like. Listen to them. And let them listen to you. Because what we could all learn is that each of us, in our own way, is suffering. We are all hurting from one thing or another. And we're taking it out on each other, calling each other dogs and worse, and giving each other crumbs. We Christians can do better. We can call each other beloved brothers and sisters. We can look into the eyes of our neighbors who are not Christian and still know that they are deserving of love. We can give each other our best. And we all need to acknowledge the pain we have inflicted on others, to swallow our pride. This is the path to reconciliation. And it will not be easy. It will be as hard as this incredibly uncomfortable gospel passage. But it will be good for us. And the people who will benefit from our honesty and our compassion and our empathy is our children. And we will be healed from the resentments and grudges that we carry around with us. We will be healed from the stories we tell about each other. Jesus stretched wide his arms upon the cross, bringing together God and people to each other. It was not easy for him. It cost him his blood. And yet we benefit. And we saw him do that here too. He reached out to someone that should have been an opponent, and instead there is compassion and love and healing. By the power of empathy, Jesus liberates us from the evil powers of this world. And we can do the same. We can stretch out our arms and stretch out our hearts to those we would not normally love, like Jesus did, and we will be healed. Amen.